Welcome back to episode 2 of Creature Comforts, the spinoff series of the Straight Chillin' podcast, where we focus on exploring the fringes of horror and all things horror adjacent. I'm your host, Soju, and tonight we are talking about Batman Returns from 1992. Why are we talking about Batman Returns? Well, if you don't think these crusty Danny DeVito shit stains are horrific, I don't know what to tell you. But seriously, this is the decade where Tim Burton was on fire and creating a ton of gateway horror films. So I figure, why not Batman Returns? But before I get too far into it, let me introduce the very special guest for tonight. First things first, I have to introduce my special guest tonight from Waxing the Porpoise podcast, my boy, G Baby. Welcome, G Baby.
Hey, thanks for having me, Soju. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Baby, I've been really excited to have you on. I've been really enjoying your podcast, Waxing the Porpoise. And why don't you go ahead and take this time to go ahead and tell everybody about that? What's it about? Where can they find you? All that good stuff.
Sure. Yeah. And I appreciate the opportunity. So Waxing the Porpoise, we just started a few months ago, I think in April, but it started off as like my buddy and co-host Steve, who I'd worked with for a decade. I'd always get frustrated because he's never seen like any movies. And I'm this big movie buff, and I always relate things to movies like, oh shit, that's like in this movie when this and he's like blank stare. So I was like, started kicking around for like 5 years ago. I was like, it'd be cool to have a podcast and just like screen films for make him watch and let's come together and talk about them. And that's kind of where it started, and it's evolved from there, but that's basically the crux of the show. Like I pick a movie for my buddy Steve, we review it, he gives me his thoughts, and then he and I are pretty big fans of like true crime, but more so me like unsolved, unexplained disappearances. Like I'm a big like unsolved mysteries fan. Mm-hmm. So just like weird shit, high strangeness in general. And I felt like it'd be fun just to kind of have like a hodgepodge and kind of sprinkle in different topics instead of being pigeonholed to like one kind of thing. So that's really it. I mean, it's a grab bag, but mainly movies, because I am a big movie buff, and then we sprinkle in some unexplained phenomenon, true crime cases. But you can find us anywhere you get podcasts, Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, all that good stuff. But and we got socials, so yeah, if you just type us in, you'll find us. And again, I want to say thank you very much for having me on. I'm a longtime Straight Chillin' listener. Hard with us, repping right here.
Hard with us, of course.
Hard with Soju tonight.
Dude,
as always,
Baby, you're like OG in the Slack too. Like when I think of like OG crew, it's like you, Heidelberg, like throwback for sure. So, and man, I gotta say too, I really have been enjoying the podcast. Actually, the kind of movie that we picked tonight and was kind of inspired a little bit by one of the newest episodes that you guys did. You talked about Beetlejuice just a few weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
And so, yeah, we're going to get into a little bit of like a Tim Burton discussion and stuff like that. But I really do enjoy the mix too. Like you said, the true crime stuff, you and Steve just kind of talking. It's just really enjoyable kind of no matter what you guys are talking about. So enjoying that. And I appreciate you coming on for episode deuce of Creature Comforts. So, yeah. With that, let's go ahead and hop into it. Tonight, we are talking about Batman Returns 1990 deuce, directed by Tim Burton, starring Michael Keaton, Michelle Pfeiffer, Danny DeVito. So, G-Baby, for this little spinoff show, the whole idea, the whole point of why I need to do this YouTube exclusive break away from the boys of horror is because on this, I want to explore the fringes of horror and kind of like all things horror adjacent. So I got to ask you a very important question. G-Baby, do you think Batman Returns 1992 is horror? And would you recommend people check this out?
I know that argument against is it horror or is it not can be a little slippery, but I guess personally, like gut reaction, face value, I would not call this horror.
Mhm.
It has some more horrific elements, as I'm sure we'll get into. But no, on its face, I would not classify this as horror, and I would recommend it. I like it a lot. I'm not the world's foremost like Batman. Like I haven't read any of the comics. Like I've seen all the movies for sure. And Michael Keaton is my like when I think of Batman, I think of Michael Keaton.
Mhm.
That was kind of like I was like 9 or 10 when the first one came out, and then or no, I was younger than that. But anyway, the first two, like it was like it hit me in my like when I was coming up watching action movies and like Batman was cool, like Ninja Turtles,
Mhm.
all that kind of stuff. So that was
Mhm.
like right in my wheelhouse. Um, I will say I prefer the original Batman to this film,
Oh, good. We're gonna have a good discussion tonight then.
but I do like this film still. Like I don't think of it as trash or anything
Mhm.
like that. So yeah, long story short, I do recommend, solid recommend, and not
Cool.
horror.
Awesome. Okay. So also too, you reminded me, let's go ahead and pour one out for Shaboy Kevin Conroy, who passed
Oh yeah,
this week. Man, that is like, the Batman return or not I'll pour one out, but Batman the animated series, huge for me as a kid. He's voiced, so many of the animated films that are like they've been dropping, even recently. And he's just
yeah,
iconic voice and did a great job. So yeah, pour one out for him. Huge loss for all Batman fans. So yeah,
indeed.
yeah, so I was a little different with this film. I was a little too young when it came out. And so my first Batman film was Batman Forever with Jim Carrey, Tommy Lee Jones, Val Kilmer, I think is the Batman in that. It's supposed
Yep.
to kind of continue on this legacy, but it's totally its own thing. But
Yeah.
I love the shit out of that as a kid, and it was super over the top, super goofy, and it's funny to like go back now and be like, "Whoa, what were they doing?" With some of that stuff. But I remember like the realm of this movie with like some toys and stuff from like McDonald's and stuff like that
Oh yeah.
existed around, but I didn't watch this until probably like I don't know, as a teenager, I feel like, and wasn't really paying much attention to it. And then I watched it again for the first time in like forever, just a couple years ago. And it really kind of caught me off guard about like kind of how goofy some of the stuff was that we'll talk about later. And like that kind of really threw me off. But for this watch, I was like really honed in and I picked this because it's talking about the fringes of horror. It's a Tim Burton film and this is like Tim Burton renaissance going on here. This was in the decade that he would release the first Batman, Beetlejuice and Edward Scissorhands, Mars Attacks, Sleepy Hollow, all within like 10 to 15 years. And
Hmm.
and he does a lot of kind of gateway horror stuff. And so on this watch, I was like really focused in. And I was like, where's this guy coming from? This really dark guy. Batman's killing people, blowing fucking people up, like catching bitches on fire. And I was like, man,
Yeah.
there's some horror elements here. And so for that,
Yeah.
without getting too deep into it, I'd say that this one, maybe the most of, all the kind of contemporary Batman films might exist the most in the fringes of horror as like kind of a horror adjacent type of Batman. But we'll talk more about that. Let's go ahead and drop that spoiler warning so we can get deep, deep, deep into it.
Spoiler warning.
Get in there nice and deep like.
Got to get in there deep. All right. So I'm going to do just a quick little plot synopsis on this. Nothing too crazy, but the monstrous penguin, Danny DeVito, who lives in the sewers beneath Gotham, joins up with the wicked businessman Max Shrek, Christopher Walken, to topple the Batman once and for all. But when Shrek's timid assistant, Selena Kyle, who is Michelle Pfeiffer, finds out and Shrek tries to kill her, she is transformed into the sexy Catwoman. She teams up with the Penguin and Shrek to destroy Batman, but sparks fly unexpectedly when she confronts the Caped Crusader. The Penguin's ploy to become mayor of Gotham fails, and he unleashes his penguins strapped with rockets on Gotham. Batman foils his plan, saves the day. Catwoman shocks the shit out of Max Shrek, and he is toast, and she's fine for some reason. And then Bruce Wayne drives away on Christmas. That's another reason I picked this as well, actually. This is dropping the week of Thanksgiving, and was kind of thinking for some more Christmas themed stuff. I've got episode 3 lined up for the December release, but I was like, man, I've been watching a lot of Tim Burton this year too. Beetlejuice right before spooky season, Sleepy Hollow during spooky season, and I was thinking, you know, I feel like on our main podcast, Straight Chillin' Podcast, the boys would be totally down if I was like, let's cover Sleepy Hollow. Let's cover Mars Attacks, even,
Yeah.
Let's cover maybe even Edward Scissorhands. It's a type of kind of Frankenstein tale. But I was like, I feel like they would be totally down or like totally against the idea of covering Batman Returns. And I was like, that's interesting, considering some of those other films. So it's like, I fucking got to talk about it then for the Christmas season on my own now show for Creature Comforts about the fringes of horror and why this would like not be suitable, but those other ones kind of would be. That's kind of interesting.
Yeah. Yeah. I think Batman Returns exists on like that periphery, like close to the border. I mean, you guys have covered Jurassic Park
Yeah.
and I know on Straight Chillin', like the main podcast, and I know that comes with its own trappings, but like to me, I don't think of that as a horror film at all. And then I know you can spiral, and I know Randy's opinion on like, labeling things, but like to me, that's one like hits me in the gut as like not horror. Whereas like I'd be willing to like lend maybe some credence on Batman Returns, like existing kind of that on that outer boundary, kind of touching up, not quite getting into it. Whereas like you said, like some of other Burton's films, like Edward Scissorhands, that hit me like way different. And like, yeah, I could definitely see that like, straddles that line of horror a little bit more for me. But I mean, Burton in general has got his own kind of like macabre, like kind of funky signature that he puts on everything. Whereas like if somebody else would have directed Batman and then Batman Returns, I feel like they probably would have played it way more action, like way more without his kind of funky sensibilities on things. But
yeah, and honestly, that's kind of what pushes it for me, like into that realm of horror. I mean, there are some horror elements in here. We'll talk about like moments of gore. Batman is just straight killing people.
Yeah, he's murdering folk for sure.
Danny DeVito is disgusting, but also just the art style, this Art Deco, these like looming statues. Gotham feels like such a much more of like a presence here than I think in his original Batman film of 1989, where it was more just kind of like a dingy city. This one, it's like really got that kind of like Burton style. It's very dark and moody. And so for me, I think that's really kind of what pushes the edge here is Burton really feels like he is just kind of letting loose on this one. He's gained his confidence. He did his first Batman film. They wanted him to come back. Him and Keaton charged the studio like a shit ton of money. They were like, fuck you. We're going to do whatever you want or whatever we want. So I feel like that's what kind of pushes it in for me because especially in this decade, he was so like kind of dabbling in those kind of like fringes of horror, Mars Attacks, Edward Scissorhands, Sleepy Hollow, stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't want to be like over like agreeable and like oh yeah, like I can
You tell
totally see
me
your
to
points,
fuck
but
off.
no, I wouldn't go that far. Like I said, I think it skirts that boundary, but like for
Mhm.
me, the way it hits me and the way
Mhm.
I associate horror, it
Yeah.
doesn't cross that
Mhm.
Rubicon for me.
Yeah.
But
Mhm.
like I said, like there are sprinklings of it in there, and it's funny too. You mentioned Batman and like the kind of the aesthetic that he had going on, and he amped it up in this one, like with that
Mhm.
hard, like that Art Deco style. I really like that a lot, and I think the stumbling block with, even though I like Forever a lot too,
Mhm.
um, I think Joel Schumacher like amped that aesthetic up to 11 and added like neon and all this shit to it,
Yeah, man.
where I think this was like the best balance
Mhm.
of his like vision of Gotham and like, you know, the way people interact with one another. But that's kind of getting off on a tangent. I just wanted to say too, you know, I give some love to Forever as well. That was like when I was a kid, that came out, I was like 10 or 11. That was my go-to for whatever reason when I got sick. Like
Mhm.
if I was like nauseous or had the flu or something and I just
Mhm.
stay home, I'd throw on Batman Forever and I'd eat like saltines and drink 7 Up. And it was like a ritual. And I feel like it made me feel better,
Hell yeah.
even though it's probably like a placebo. But so yeah, I have a strong nostalgic tie to Batman Forever as well. But
Yeah, I do
yeah,
too. Yeah.
sorry, go ahead.
Oh no, I was gonna say it's weird because it tainted my feelings for this film for kind of like a long time.
Hmm.
Um, I don't know. Like I said, when I watched it again for the first time a couple years ago, I guess, I had it in my mind. It was like darker and more serious than Forever. But really, it's got a similar kind of goofiness to it. Some stuff that's
Yeah.
really over the top. These penguins strapped with rockets, and like Danny DeVito's given this speech in front of them, and this like gang of clowns and shit that's doing backflips, and even like some of the lines Michelle Pfeiffer has and shit she's dropping. It was like really goofy, and it really kind of caught me off guard, but this time I was kind of ready for it, and appreciated it a lot more for the balance it's kind of able to bring between, like, this is like you said, Schumacher took that shit crazy high, but this
Oh
I
yeah.
feel like is kind of the best blend for me now, kind of like really like honing in on these films and seeing kind of like what they're about. I think Batman Returns like really kind of hit the sweet spot for me this time. You were saying before though that you are like the original Batman 1989 was kind of like your preference. Why is
Hmm.
that? Why do you
I
think?
think, well, I think for sure the large majority of that is because I was young and I
Mhm.
saw it first, and
Mhm.
I had never read any of the comics. I wasn't like really aware of Batman, and then at that time and place, so 1989, I was 5. um like it came out, it's like Batman, like what is this? It's
Mhm.
like, and he's got the horns and the cape and he just looks bad fucking ass. And I remember my parents took me to the theater and we saw this, and I was just like hook line and sinker, like this shit's, it's just super dope. And then so I've always thought of it fondly, and like I'll come back to it like every 5 years or so, and it's like a fine wine to me. Like not
Mhm.
only just for Keaton, because like to me, I think like when I think of Batman, I think of Michael Keaton for that reason.
Mhm.
It's just, it was the first thing and it was ingrained. And over time, I feel like his performance has held up,
Mhm.
even though I like Val Kilmer and I know George Clooney's pretty easy to beat, but and Christian Bale did his thing. But
Yeah.
I mean, I just thought Michael Keaton was the shit. Like that scene when he's like, you know, staring down Jack Nicholson and he's saying, you know, like, he's like, you want to get nuts? Come on, let's get
Yeah,
nuts.
let's
And
get nuts
Jack
as Bruce
Nichols,
Wayne, yeah.
dude, I love that. That was like,
Yeah.
yeah. But Jack Nicholson, Kim Basinger, I don't know. The Prince soundtrack, fucking, I was
Mhm.
like, whoa, like that opened 5-year-old, 6-year-old me to Prince.
Hell
So
yeah, that's always a positive.
yeah, I love Prince. So, but yeah, that
So
was just like, I think it was like, for me, it was a perfect storm of things. And a lot of people my age when that came out. But I don't know. I think Batman compared to Batman Returns, it just feels a little bit more gritty. It
Mhm,
doesn't have that goofiness, which
mhm,
I'm not averse to, but just when we're comparing Batmans, I like the first, I like the aesthetic and like the tone of the first one a little bit more. Whereas I look at Batman Returns and it's more of like a good time,
mhm,
versus like, oh, this is like badass.
mhm.
I don't know.
That's
That's the way I
interesting.
reconcile it.
Yeah, that's interesting too, because I'm usually on that like kind of wagon where I like the kind of more serious, down to earth, gritty kind of stuff. But one of the big differences, I didn't grow up with the original Batman. I think I saw that one even later than Returns. And
Oh
actually,
yeah.
crazy, I just flew home from Korea for the holidays. And on the flight, they just so happened, and we had already decided, we were going to talk about this and stuff. They just so happened to have like every fucking Batman film on the flight. And so for like 15 hours, I was just watching Batman films, seriously, the whole fucking time. So I started with Batman 1989, and it was maybe only my second full watch all the way through. And you're
Wow.
right. It was like a really gritty, some really standout scenes. I fucking love the shit out of Prince, but even some, I was like, how does this Prince like work into it? And it's super wild and it's very gritty. And Jack Nicholson's performance is great. And there's some iconic, it's cinematography that goes on in that, but I was like, this
Yeah.
feels like two flavors that are like not going well for my palate for some reason, because I usually enjoy that. And then I got to this film, followed it right after, and I was like, it's the style. The style in this one was like really pulling me in. And one cool thing, the choice that they did to make it Christmas. I don't know, something about that
Yeah.
makes it really special for me.
Yeah, I like that aspect of it too. And it was
Mhm.
funny. I think just before this, I was reading up on it. It was like, I didn't realize this because I can't remember 1992, but when they released it, it was the summer of 1992. Like, I think June or July when they
Mhm.
released Returns. I was like, and they set it in Christmas. It's like, I feel like this would have been I mean, you think about summer blockbusters, they want to hit that kind of lane, but
Yeah.
I feel like this would have done really well during Christmas time too. So that kind of flip my mind a little bit. But yeah, I love the Christmas aspect of this as well because it's like, oh, cool. It's like I can fit that in like as a Christmas film. But
Yeah, yeah. And that's I think back in the day, I think they did that kind of shit so that they had enough time to like promote the toys, because there's obviously some moments in here
yeah,
where
good
like they want to
point.
sell some shit for later on in Christmas. And I back in the day,
Yeah.
home media was like took forever to kind of crank out and stuff like that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
totally. They need time to build up because now it's like the toys fucking leak before the movie, and that's how
Exactly.
people find out. Oh, that this person's gonna be in the next fucking MCU movie and shit. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
I've talked about that on a previous pod on Waxing the Porpoise. How it's like,
Mhm.
dude, they flip shit so fast. And I remember back in like pre 2000, it was like you're waiting a goddamn year. Like
Mhm.
right off the top for it to come out on video or DVD. There's no streaming or like
Mhm.
so. Yeah, it's wild how quickly that gap has increased, and maybe it's out of necessity because everything's online now. Like the toys getting leaked, they
You
know who's going to
got
be in it.
to, yeah.
Plot points, they have to flip it really quick,
Mhm.
otherwise it's like old news. Like
Mhm. Yeah,
that's
before they were
crazy.
like building the anticipation, like, oh, you got to wait for the video release or whatever. Go see it in the theater like 30 fucking times.
Dude,
Now
I
they're
remember
like,
getting
oh, we
like
got to crank it out.
Dude, I remember getting like CDs like in the mail like for when Independence Day came out, like when
Oh,
like America
dude.
Online and all that.
Yeah.
And it
Hell
was
yeah.
like a demo game of Independence Day. It was like ID4 and it was like before the movie had even come out and they were trying to drum up. So, yeah, it's weird how that's kind of flipped a little bit.
Mm-hmm. Fucking
But
time, dude. Where's it go? All this shit changes. um, the performances in this. Let me ask you, how do you feel about the performances in this, the acting? Because you're saying like Michael Keaton really stands out to you as Batman, but in this one, especially compared to the original Batman, I feel like Bruce Wayne, Batman really takes kind of a back seat in this one. So I'm
oh
curious, like,
yeah.
how do you feel about the overall performances of this film?
I think in general, I like them all. They're all great. But yeah, Keenan or the Batman, I can't remember what the figure was, but I remember seeing like actual screen time of Batman
Mhm.
in this film. Can't remember what it was, but I was like, fuck, that is
It's
low. And I remember
low.
watching, I don't know if it influenced me the second time I watched or when I watched it last night. And I was like, dude, it's almost like we were talking about this on a podcast too. It's like you think of these iconic roles like Anthony Hopkins in Silence of the Lambs. He's only in that movie for like 15 minutes.
Mhm.
Beetlejuice, Michael
Beetlejuice,
Keaton's only
yeah.
in it for like 11 or 12 minutes, but you think
Mhm.
they're larger than life figures. So it's like maybe that's a credit to the filmmakers how they can weave all these things in, and it doesn't feel like that.
Mhm.
But this time I felt it. I was like, yeah, I feel like his performance was more like he had more to do. He had more dialogue in the first
Mhm.
one, and maybe that's just by virtue of having two villains or one
Mhm.
villain and like one quasi. You know, you have Catwoman, but
Mhm.
then I mean Christopher Walken's in this quite a bit too as like the secondary villain. So,
Mhm.
um, yeah, I mean, I think Keaton's serviceable. He's fine in this. And it's funny because I've heard him also say that he liked doing this film and he thought it was more like it allowed him to grow and it was more challenging than the first one. And
Mm.
I thought that was interesting because I thought that would be the case with OG Batman. But um, like Michelle Pfeiffer is fucking awesome as
Mhm.
Catwoman. I think she knocked it out of the park. I think Danny DeVito played it pretty over the top, but I think that's what the role demanded, and
Mhm.
I think he did his best with what he could. But I wish the Penguin would have been a little bit more imposing. He kind of felt
Mm.
like an afterthought. Um, that's just my opinion, but I did also like Christopher Walken as Max
Mhm.
Shrek. I thought he was pretty cool. He's pretty much being Christopher Walken, even like the way he was, some of the shit he's saying and like the cadence. But
Mm.
yeah, I thought everyone that had a main role in this film was great.
That's interesting about this is I'm glad I picked you for this episode, G baby, because I am like me and you push and pull on this one. I feel like the shining star for me is Danny DeVito. And it's partially because of his performance, but also just kind of like the overall design of how they handled the penguin. He is like so fucking disgusting.
Yeah, he
And
is.
there's this one scene that really always stands out to me when he like surprises him as like Shrek is like, I'm gonna have you run for mayor, and there's just all these people downstairs, and
Yeah,
and he's like luring him with the raw fish, and he's just
yeah,
eating it, dude. And he's in that onesie that's just like, what the fuck is up with this dude?
yeah,
He's so disgusting looking. He bites that dude's nose, and that's where you get some of the gore kind of in this too. You get the
yeah.
blood spurting and stuff. Anyways, I don't know. I really love Danny DeVito's performance, and it is like way over the top. But there's sometimes too where he shines. There's this one scene that I mentioned before where he's giving this impassioned, like dark speech, but he's giving it to these like penguins that are just kind of surrounding him. But the way he delivers that is like nuts and like a crazed person. But the situation that they put him is like super goofy and over the top. So it's this weird blend. But yeah, I really love Danny DeVito in this. I think he shines for me in this one.
Yeah, I won't disagree with that either. And I didn't mean to insinuate like previous that I think he did a bad job. I just
Mhm.
think like with the character in general, I would have liked to see it go a little bit harder, but
Mhm.
I think with what he did and what he was presented with, I mean,
Mhm.
he went all the way, like with like the teeth and like the prosthetics. And like
Mhm.
I read it took him like 2 or 3 hours in makeup every day. And like, that's got to be a grind. And I mean, he gave it his all for sure. And are
Mhm.
you talking about that speech at the end when he's giving his like last salvo to his whole audience of
Yeah, when he's like gonna
penguins?
destroy Gotham. Yeah. Mhm. Yep.
Yeah. I think that part, especially too, I was like, fuck, I made a note specifically. This movie is depressing. And that was the scene. I was like, he's given, like, I kind of felt it a little bit endearing. Like, these penguins took him in when he was thrown off the fucking bridge in his pram.
Mhm.
And then, like, he's given this last order and, like, you know, so, but yeah, I think it's got more going on than people give it credit for, too.
Mhm. Well, it's too, you talking about like being raised by the penguins. That's an interesting aspect of this movie that they don't just do with the penguin. But like they make, okay, so they make the penguin this man who's living in the sewer. He literally has these like flipper fingers. He's eating cats at one point, or he's like dragging them into the sewer.
Dude, that scene was so nuts when he's a baby and he just fucking hucks it out and like pulls it into his little cage thing.
Yeah.
Oh, by the way, quick, did you recognize his dad?
His dad? No.
At the beginning? That's Paul Rubens, Pee Wee Herman.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh shit, I didn't
Totally.
even recognize them. Damn, no.
Yeah.
I'll have to go back and check it out again.
I think Pee Wee purists too would probably crucify me if I didn't mention. I can't remember. I remember a little bit of Pee Wee, but I guess the gal who plays his mom was also in Pee Wee. I can't place her. I don't know who the fuck she played. She could have been a voice of like the couch or something, but I guess she was in it too. But that's like a Pee Wee pull. But yeah, I was like right away. I was like, oh shit, Paul Rubens. So,
dude, I'm about to piss a bunch of people off, but I have never actually seen Pee-wee's Big Adventure. Never done it. Never watched it. Like I know Pee-wee and everything. Like, I've just never seen the film like from beginning to end. I've seen parts of it.
You got to do it. Have a couple drinks and throw it on when you get a wild hair. I gotta
watch it with Randy. He loves the shit out of that film.
There
so
yeah,
when he comes
if you have
town,
a shaman guiding you, yeah.
Yeah. So one thing I will say about the performances, since we were talking about that, are kind of like going off the literal sense that they take everything. Michelle Pfeiffer, and I don't think it's her fault. She's like crazy sexy and stuff, but some of the stuff that they make her do, I'm like, I don't know if we needed some of this shit. Like, her like licking herself, like she's literally cleaning her when she's wearing this leather suit. It's like, what the fuck are you doing?
Or she eats the fucking bird.
Dude, she really did that.
Yeah, I read that too. I was like, whoa.
I know. So they had some fake ones, but she was like, nah, they look too fake. Obviously, she didn't like kill it or anything, but she puts it in her mouth and fuck it. That would freak. I would not be chill with that, dude. No.
I'd be like, dude, this thing's shitting down the back of my throat for sure. No way I'm doing that. Fuck no. But yeah, kudos to her, man, for keeping it real.
Yeah, you know that bird is freaking the fuck out. You are definitely slurping down some bird shit for sure. That thing is emptying itself. So yeah, so some of the stuff they made her do. I do love from like the sense of the literal kind of take they take with Batman. He does this like some too in the first Batman film, but he's like fucking tossing bats at people sometimes. And his fucking in his house, he's got this fireplace that is the most fucking intense fire I have ever seen. I love that.
That's so awesome you mentioned that. I literally made a note because this time it jumped out to me. Where is it? I put fucking dude, Batman's fireplace is fucking sick. It's the size of a studio apartment. That bitch is huge.
It is.
Roaring ass motherfucker.
Burning fucking logs in that shit.
Yeah, I was like, dude, poor Alfred, like the upkeep he must fucking have to do to that place. Jesus Christ. Just keeping that fire stoked is like a task.
Yeah,
I'm glad you brought that up because this time I was like, dude, that fireplace isn't. I was like, look, honey, I was like, we need to get one of those.
Yeah, Yeah, I love that. I love the shit they did too. Even though they keep, take him out a lot, that fucking fire, like, and his whole house and shit like that. One thing
He's
I
got one of those
do,
old school big screens, like the box big screen too.
yeah, dude, I had one of those back in the day, but it was like after they were super cheap and like way outdated, like 10 years later in my
Yeah, they're
first
like
apartment.
$600.
Yeah, yeah. Somebody like gave it to me, I think, and it was just like super retro and outdated. But I was like, fuck it, it's my big ass TV.
Yeah, and when they first came out, they were like fucking the price of a car.
Yeah,
Like 92.
yeah. One thing I didn't like at the end, Batman like takes his fucking mask off when Max Shrek, he's like, let's take Max Shrek to jail. And he's like, I'm gonna take my mask off, but it like rips. It's not a mask. I was
Dude,
like,
I remember noting that. I was like, dude, why did it just rip like a tray of Jello? It's like any scuffle he's in, that bitch is getting ripped off instantly. Like he gets put in a chokehold. It's like, oh shit. Yeah. I was like, well, maybe that's emphasizing how fucking strong old Michael Keaton
Bruce
is.
Yeah. But when it's like still there, it's like the jagged pieces like climbing up his neck. You're like,
yeah, and then he's got this fat ass turtleneck, like
this Batman turtleneck. I'm like, oh no, that doesn't look right. So yeah. Also the gang too. I remember when I watched it a couple years ago, I was really confused about the choice of the gang because a lot of them look like clowns. I was like, that's kind of a weird thing to not have them in the first film. But they kind of explain in a way where it's like this group of kind of like freak show people, circus people. And that's fine because they do add some other elements, like one talking about Batman just slaughtering people as the devil at the beginning, like the first like real scuffle. I love that design, dude, but that dude gets torched.
Yeah, I love how he's doing his own thing, and then of course Batman has a fucking like switch or an option for anything, and this one happens to be like shitting out a platform to spin your car, and then he just hits him with a little bit of exhaust, and that fucker's just like, whoa. Yeah. I looked at some trivia, or it was like goofs, and the way they edited and stitched that scene up together, you really have to like know that and look at it. But if you look at that scene again, that motherfucker, he's already on fire before Batman's like rear like fire exhaust hits him. But they edited it so quickly that if you don't know that and you're not paying attention, it's like, oh shit, he just fucking shot a fireball at that little devil. But if you look at it, it's like, oh shit, yeah, he's already on fire. That's how they got that Batman effect.
I gotcha.
So it's just a slight, like, I don't give a shit about it, but I thought I was like, oh shit, that's right. But
that is cool.
Yeah, that one was a chuckle for me. Like, I love that part.
That one, and there was one more too where Batman just does not give a fuck, and I think it's where he like straps some dude with dynamite and throws him down the fucking sewer.
Yeah, the dude like punches him, and like while he punches him, like Batman like sneak attack, like plants the bomb on his belly, and then he looks back at him, and fucking Michael Keaton's got this shit-eating grin on his face, and like does like a jump Superman punch, and he goes into this like underground and just blows up. And it's like, yeah, that's straight murder. Like, you talk about all these other Batmans where it's like, oh yeah, he only like he takes people to prison, he like doesn't kill people, he's got a code. Dude, that's all out the window. There's a couple other, like, I mean, the devil, I mean, I have to imagine he died from his wounds.
Yeah, if not, he's probably wishing he was dead. That dude's toast.
He's crispy nonetheless. But yeah, and the dude with the dynamite, he's deader than shit. So I think there's a couple
fucking dead. Well, I remember too when like Ben Affleck, his first performance, I guess it was Batman versus Superman, but he had like bullets and shit and was like,
he's like crushing people guns.
And people were like, oh, what, Batman's killing people? And I was like, bitch, you need to go back to fucking Returns, because Michael Keaton does not give a fuck. Blowing bitches up.
Yeah, I saw a quick blurb before this, trying to bone up for this. I saw like, that argument, and I guess there's early comics where he is wielding a gun, and like there are some like angles that people take with him where he kills people or criminals indiscriminately. So I was
Mm,
curious. I was like, where did that like idea come from? Because I always thought, yeah, like he's like, all about justice and doing the right thing and
mm.
doesn't kill people. And I was like, these early films throw that right out the fucking window. So
They do. There is one of the comics, oh goddamn, I'm terrible. More people are gonna be yelling at the fucking screen right now, but the one of the ones where he's old, he's the old Batman and Joker tricks everybody and like kind of gets out of jail and shit, I think. Anyways, at one point he's got this like tank of a Batmobile and he does shoot like rubber bullets. So he goes into this like crowd of like punk kind of mutant kids or whatever, and he's shooting them with like rubber bullets because there's like hundreds of them or something. So
mhm.
yeah, there are elements of it throughout some of the comics and stuff. But well, whatever. Batman can kill people, I guess. That's cool. It's
Yeah,
all good.
I'm with it.
Let's
Fuck them
see.
clowns.
There's a ton of shit, but let's go ahead and just hop into our final reviews. Unless is there anything else you want to go over real quick before we give our final reviews?
I think the one thing notable that stuck out to me that I thought was funny watching
Mm,
it as an older person now is after at the beginning when the penguin's parents just offload him, I'm thinking like, fuck, you couldn't just give him up for fucking adoption. It's like,
yeah,
is safe surrender not a thing? It's like, dude, in Kentucky right now, like you can go drop off up to a 16-year-old child at a fucking fire department and call it safe surrender. It's like
holy
that'd be a
shit.
pretty fucked up move,
Hell yeah.
um but it's like, yeah, the next option is just to dump him off a bridge into a dilapidated fucking zoo. And then it jumps, it's like 33 years later. And I'm like, wait, you're telling me this motherfucker is a 34 to 35-year-old man?
I made that
Dude.
same note too. I was like, what the fuck? Penguin's supposed to be 33 years old. Fucking crusty ass Danny DeVito and his crusty onesie, dude. Oh my
Those
gosh.
are a hard 33 years.
I mean, he was living in the sewer, so fair enough.
Yeah, that's true.
Eating
Probably
cats and shit.
that's a little bit more than city miles, I guess. But
Yeah,
yeah,
this
that's the only
movie
other
is
thing that
dark.
jumped out.
It's
Yeah.
dark like in its premise, even when he's kind of like looking for his parents, I guess. It's weird how it kind of like makes them a little sympathetic, but he's so kind of disgusting later on that it kind of skips that beat a little bit.
Yeah.
But when he kind of is like, I'm Oswald Cobblepot or whatever, it's like, yeah, it's like playing with some dark things, but it plays them up so goofy that sometimes they don't hit quite emotionally like they probably should.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
did this time at the end when like the big fat clown, like when he unveils his master plan to kill all the firstborn of Gotham or whatever.
Mhm.
And it was funny to me that clown was like the voice of reason. And he's like, wait,
Mhm.
you're going to kill dozens or hundreds of small children? And
Yeah.
and then he just shoots him and kills him. And it's like, yeah, that got pretty dark right there for sure.
Yeah, people like actually like reasoning it out like, wait, shit. It's like, dude, you were just flipping through downtown and blowing
Yeah, like
shit
setting
up. What are
shit
you
on
talking about?
fire. And
Yeah.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, interesting. Yeah, they kind of went all over the place with this one. All right, G baby, out of 5, what would you give Batman Returns 1990 Deuce?
I feel seen because I didn't even think about this before, but I'm gonna go gut reaction. I'll say 3.5 out of 5.
Okay,
Solid. I enjoyed it. I don't think I can elucidate on anything further. Yeah, 3.5.
cool. Yeah, I'm gonna come in just a little bit higher. For some reason, like I feel like it was interesting you telling me your story about this because I was like, that is exactly where I was, minus the kind of appreciation for the original Batman, but just my kind of gut feelings about this film just a couple years ago were real weird. And it was just this time around. I ended up watching it twice since it was on the plane. I watched it and then I watched it just last night to kind of refresh my brain. And I don't know. I had a lot more appreciation for it. I have been doing a lot of like early Tim Burton this year too. I always watch Sleepy Hollow. I watch Beetlejuice because you guys were talking about it on Waxing the Porpoise. And so I maybe that kind of helped too. I was in that Burton, headspace. But I
Mhm.
really like this. It was cool too. One thing, we shouts outs to oh my god, Kevin. Oh my god, the guy who died.
Fuck, what is his name?
Dude, so many
I'm
people fucking hate us. Kevin Conroy. Kevin Conroy.
There you
Holy
go.
God.
Sorry.
I didn't even have to look it up, but my mind literally just went blank. But talking about the kind of influence that those films and even this one with kind of like that Art Deco style had on the animated series, which was huge for so many kids in the 90s, and so
Yeah.
many Batman fans. Um, I could see it in this film a lot, even like in the music from like Danny Elfman and the Art Deco styles and like how kind of dark this one's a lot darker too. There's a lot more scenes in the daylight in the original Batman 1989. So
Oh
I feel
yeah.
like this one kind of like inspired that a little bit more, that like drawing on black paper and stuff like that. But so yeah, I really dug on this film this time. I appreciated the style more. I really appreciated the Christmas, maybe because it's just getting in the Christmas season. I was like, it's kind of cool to be able to watch a Batman film at this time and it be relevant. I like that aspect and super goofy. But yeah, I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5. This time the flavors were really just gelling with me. I was ready for it. I appreciated the art design and styles a lot more. I think Danny DeVito kind of killed it as this like disgusting ass horrific kind of character. So yeah, I dug it. There was some gore, Batman killing people. 4 out of 5 from me. Let's hop over into Rotten Tomatoes and let's play a little game, she baby.
Let's do it.
Certified fresh to death.
Okay, G baby. So we do it a little bit different here on Creature Comforts. So since there's just two of us, you got to beat the house today. Okay, so I have the critic scores for Batman Returns, and I'm going to give you a couple other films, and I want you to tell me if you think the Batman Returns critic score is higher or lower than the critic scores of these other films. Okay.
Perfect.
So the first one we're going to go with, do you think Batman Returns score is higher or lower than the Batman film from 1966, like the Adam West shit?
I'm gonna go higher.
So you think Batman Returns is higher?
Yes.
Okay. Now, do you think Batman Returns is higher or lower than Batman 1989?
Ooh. Damn. I feel like this is tough. I'm gonna say lower.
Okay, so Batman Returns is lower.
Yeah.
And do you think Batman Returns is higher or lower than the Batman 2020 Deuce?
Fuck. Ooh, I'm gonna say lower.
You
Batman
think
Returns is
is
lower than the Batman, aka the Ratma, aka the ATM.
Okay. All right, so G baby, you were, let's see, correct on Batman 1966. That critic score is 80% and Batman Returns is 81%. So 1 point higher. Woo.
Damn.
All right. So
Flea's
1 point for
dick.
she baby. Yeah. Batman 1989, you said that Returns is lower. We said it's 81%. You are incorrect on that one. Batman is 73%.
Ugh, I feel like that's criminal. I feel like it should be at least a 79.
Yeah. So
Damn.
Batman Returns is higher on that one. Now you did get Batman 2020 Deuce, which is 85%. So 4 points higher than Batman
Wow.
Returns. Whoa. All right. G Baby. You want a
Hey.
hell yeet or a hell skeet tonight? What do you want? You
Oh,
got your own little victory chant? What you got? What you got?
you
G
got
Baby?
you got to give me a hell yeet, brother.
Oh, hell yeet, G Baby. Hell yeet, my guy.
Hashtag hard with Soju, hard with us. Are
Hell
you
yeah,
a
my
real
guy.
straight chillin' crew?
I can't wait to tell the boys about that one.
Yeah.
The sect is growing. All right, cool. G Baby, it sounds like you dipped into a little bit of the trivia on this one. Is that correct?
Yeah, a little bit
Okay,
for
I've
sure.
got some that I've kind of tried to turn to a game. If you know it, then you can pretend like you don't, and we'll entertain the guests.
Okay. I didn't go super deep, but
For trivia.
It's okay. All right, totally time for trivia. So Tim Burton originally did not want to cast this person in the film. Of the major cast, who do you think Tim Burton did not want?
mm, I want to say Chris Walken, but he also cast him in Sleepy Hollow and maybe one other thing too. So maybe he likes him, but mm, I'll say Chris Walken.
Okay, ringy ding, G baby. Tim Burton was reportedly uncomfortable with
Hey.
casting Christopher Walken as Max Shrek. When she asked him why, I guess this is the casting director, she said, because that man scares the hell out of me. I guess Burton said that man scares the hell out of me. Christopher Walken's a weird dude. I could see that.
Dude, that's funny because Tim Burton's kind of a fucking freaky dude too. So that's funny
That's
to hear
true.
him say that about someone else. Quick side tangent. I just saw this thing that's related to this. I just saw a fucking YouTube short of Johnny Depp, which is, I guess, tangentially related to Tim Burton. I saw Johnny Depp. He was talking about working on Donnie Brasco, and he said working with Al Pacino. Like someone was asking about him. He's like, yeah, I can say without a doubt he is certifiably insane. And he said, you know, one day he's like, I like to keep it light on set or whatever. And he said, so one day I just shot Al Pacino straight. He's like, do you know that you're certifiably insane? And then he's like, Al Pacino's like, oh yeah, oh yeah. He's like, yeah, you know, you're pretty fucking crazy too, my friend.
Yeah, that's the thing. When the like
awesome.
freaks or like the weirdos tell you you're insane, it's like, man, I could totally see Al Pacino being absolutely fucking insane. I would be scared to hang out with Al Pacino. Johnny Depp, Johnny Depp's like the more like, I'm stylistically weird. Appreciate me for my art because I'm weird. Al Pacino is like fucking crazy, or like I would imagine he would be.
Yeah, I'm sure he's crazy as a fox, but yeah. Anyway, tangent aside, it's so funny that Tim Burton, because I think of him with like the wild hair and like all the crazy weird idiosyncratic shit that he's made, and he's afraid of Chris Walken. Like, I mean, Chris Walken is a force though, so
I think it's probably the kind of the same thing where it's like Tim Burton's like stylistically weird, but I could see him as like a total goofball or like a huge softy. But like Christopher Walken, if I was in a room, the way he like talks, he's got the fucking eyes, I'd be like, fuck, dude, Christopher Walken freaking me out, my guy.
Yeah,
I've heard some other though.
I've heard some other people in Hollywood like relate stories about Walken, and like, yeah, he is like stone crazy, like some of the shit he's said. So yeah, I could see that being an intimidating factor, but I mean, that brought us to Sleepy Hollow. I thought that he was pretty great in that too, even though he doesn't have any lines, I don't think.
I don't think he does, but I guess he warmed up to him, because they worked together, at least for that. I can't remember if Walken's in anything else. Tim Burton's always working with the same people, so it feels like maybe he was, but I can't remember.
I heard a weird anecdote too. Like people are like, "Why do you work with Johnny Depp so much?" And it's like because he's so pale. Like the way I like to light things.
Yeah, I heard that too. It's like Okay, all right, my guy. All right, whatever. Yeah, the way I edit my films requires pale skin. It's like,
Yeah.
okay. I've heard that too. Heard that too. It's like, yeah, you're kind of a weird guy, Tim Burton.
Yeah.
Uh, how many cat suits do you think they went through for Michelle Pfeiffer in this film?
I think I actually read this one, so I feel bad guessing, but I want to say what I read, I think it was 60, and they were like $1,000 a pop.
Yeah, dude, 60 cat suits. And you're right. Yeah, $1,000 a pop. And they had to like vacuum that shit to her skin like every time she
Fuck
wore
that.
it. And I guess I don't know, she had to destroy it like every time she took it off because of the vacuum. It's like it feels like there's a better way to handle that.
You would think, but then again, we're dealing with like 1992, so maybe that's the best that they could do. Because I
Yeah.
read a little quick anecdote that Michael Keaton coming back more. Obviously, he wanted more money to come back as
Mhm.
Batman in Batman Returns, but he was also like, "You need to build in a zipper
Yeah,
to
for
the
the
bat suit, so I can take a
pants.
fucking leak, man."
Yeah, because
So
that shit does not look comfortable. Like I say, it's not even a
no,
mask. It's just like plastic strapped to his body. It's weird.
yeah. Yeah, when I was
Uh,
thinking about that figure, I was like, fuck, 60 grand of your budget was just on her suits. I was like, fuck.
mhm. You had mentioned it before, but Tim Burton and Michael Keaton prefer this film to the first one. So you had mentioned Michael Keaton, but Tim Burton agrees, I guess. Keaton said that the sequel spoke to me more and that he greatly enjoyed the film. And I think, again, I think because the first one was so successful, Tim Burton had a lot more freedom. And so that
Hmm.
could be why he enjoys it more because he just got to like just spew all over it, his style and everything. So that makes sense.
Yeah, that's wild because I remember reading that Tim Burton didn't want to come back for a sequel because the studio wanted to do like a continuation,
Mhm.
like add on. Whereas I think Tim Burton was like, I don't know if he like threw down the gauntlet and was like, I think that's how from what I read, it was like, no, you got to let me just kind of free ball it and just tell a different story, not
Mhm.
necessarily connected specifically to the first one and building on that. Like we're
Mhm.
trying to make a franchise, which back then was like, an afterthought really. So, but it seems like the studio was like wanting to build it up like sequentially, like building blocks, whereas Tim Burton was like, no, I'm not going to do it unless you let me tell my like just a wild story that's not necessarily connected to the first one. So I like that he had that like, I mean, because walking away from Batman sequel money and like
Mhm.
that kind of stuff, like that goes with that. I mean, that's pretty ballsy at that point in his career to be like, no, you got to let me do this or else I'm walking away. It's like that's guaranteed fucking, you're getting cheesed the fuck up. So,
Yeah, him and Keen, yeah, they both were like, "Give me a bunch of money," and I guess the first one was so successful, they did. So that's good
yeah.
for them for cashing
Yeah. Good on
out.
them. Fuck it.
Yeah, and, there was he said something else about never mind, I forgot what it was, but yeah, so good for them, get your money. Whoa. Um, the Batman costume weighed 55 pounds. Good
Holy
lord.
shit.
Um, you said you never read any of the Batman comics, She Baby?
Not one.
Do you know any of the other Robins that exist in the Batman universe?
I know by like osmosis that there's like multiple different ones. I think the name that jumps out to me is like Tim Drake.
Mhm.
And then there's like a Jason something, but yet no, I'm a complete novice when it comes to the different. I think there's like interplay with like the Red Hood and there, yeah. I'm a stalker slash spectator on like what
The
that
Batman.
world consists. Yeah, all that stuff. So yeah, I'm
Yeah,
not the guy to ask.
I know a little bit about it, but like in the animated series, the main one there was like Dick Grayson, who ultimately becomes like
Right,
Nightwing.
right.
Jason Todd is the one who gets killed by the Joker in one of the comics and becomes like Red Hood. He comes back to life or whatever. But I guess in this film, originally they wanted to bring a Robin in, but weirdly enough, they wanted to bring in Tim Drake, who is like not one of the like initially like prominent Robins in the kind of Batman universe, but
Huh.
they wanted to bring him in, and they even like designed it. They made a toy out of it. He had a bow staff and stuff, and
Oh
they
shit.
ultimately scrapped it, but the toy still got released. So I guess there's like, here's a raw. Maybe the animated series kind of helped that out a little bit. I'm
Dude,
not
I
sure.
bet that's a fucking key piece of memorabilia to have if you were able
Yeah,
to snag one of those and still had it. Fuck, that's probably
Mm.
worth some green.
Some
And I
old
bet
mom's
Hydraberg
got.
right now is probably like, oh God, you guys fucking it all up. I know he's
Now,
a big comic guy.
I did want to clarify that in my first two episodes of this spinoff show, I was covering two kind of superhero properties. That is not going to be what this show is about. I just want to go ahead and make that clear. Got different plans, but yeah. So that's pretty much all the trivia. We got one more segment we need to cover, and it is probably the most important discussion we have today. We are talking Cooter of the Week.
Straight chillin'.
Cooter of the Week!
All right, G baby, I'm going to put you to the test. Cooter is a character type and a straight chillin' exclusive. A cooter has to hit three of these 5 points to be considered a cooter. Can you name those 5 points of cooterdom, G baby?
We got look and attire.
Mm-hmm.
We got overall patheticness.
Mm-hmm.
Smug arrogance.
Yep.
Oh man, you put me on the spot right now. Look at
Ooh,
attire,
there's a
overall
big one.
patheticness. Smug arrogance, manipulation.
Mm-hmm. Got one more. It's like the big one too.
Fuck.
Think about diddlers.
I can't remember. I've sipped on a little bit too much whiskey tonight.
Sexual deviance.
Fuck. Dude, I'm never gonna hear the end of that.
The
God damn it.
diddlers. Blast them. Put them on blast. Slack channel. Put them on blast.
Dude, here it comes.
So yeah. So G baby. Sexual deviance, manipulation, smug arrogance, overall look and attire, overall patheticness. I've said those words too many goddamn times. Is there a cooter in Batman Returns?
I mean, I think the obvious, like, I want to go to Chris Walken,
Mm-hmm.
but I think it's pretty neck and neck for me with Walken and the Penguin, actually, because he has a couple moments that I picked up on this time where he's pretty fucking
He's
sexually
a horn
deviant.
dog. Yeah.
Yeah, like some of the lines he says, like it's like, "Oh, I'd love to fill her void" or something like that. Like, yeah. So, and
even
I think
Catwoman makes a Q-Che kind of innuendo. She says something about like, he's like, when they're at that like eyes wide shut party, he's like, I hope there's no hard feelings. And she's like, well, semi hard. And I was like, damn, popping a Q-Che over there. Whoa. So
Lady
yeah.
Q-Che.
Yeah. I think let's see. Christopher, yeah, they're both. So Christopher Walken, he's definitely got the smug arrogance. A manipulation too, because like he's got this whole like ploy to trick the city out of their power, whatever its crazy plan is.
Yeah.
Looking attire, he's looking pretty swanky, but that hair is a little.
That hair's
just
a choice, man.
Yeah, he's making some choices there. Even if you're in a Tim Burton film, that's a choice, my guy. So I think we could strap him with that. Is he pathetic?
I think I don't know how philosophical you want to get on it, but I think he's
Okay.
pathetic in the fact that he wants to drain power from the city and turn it into like a capacitor that he could potentially turn around and hold the city hostage on
Hostage.
and be like a de facto, like, tyrant that way. So
Well, I think it's kind of pathetic in the way that he's already powerful. Like he's already rich.
well, then there's that point where he talks about where he's like, Bruce, shame on you. You can never have enough power. Like there's never it's an endless, endeavor for him. Like you can never have too much. So I think he hits all the points. I don't think you really get a sexual deviant side from him, where I think if you put him and the Penguin together, that creates like
super cooter.
A composite of like super cooter. But I think he hits at least 3 for sure. So I think we could have dual cooters.
Yeah, I could see like the Penguin. He definitely hits the sexual deviance, like you said. He even like hit that staff worker when he comes down that crusty ass onesie and he's kind of like trying to grab at that one lady. She's not about that.
No.
And let's see, looking attire. Good God, that onesie. Just for the onesie alone, holy God, that thing needs
he's got like shit stains and like
like
his
right around his
shorts.
ass, like legit. It's like legit shit stains. So looking at Tyre,
not flattering.
Yeah, overall patheticness. Yeah, I think we could give it to him. Manipulation. Yeah, for sure. I mean, he's kind of in on the plan and everything. Yeah. And
he's got his own thing going on in the background that he never, clues Shrek in. He's using Shrek just as much as Shrek is using him, because Shrek wants a mayoral, candidate that's going to come in and just rubber stamp anything so he can get his power plant. And then the Penguin's just like, his ulterior thing is like, I want to kill all the firstborn sons of Gotham, so they don't, the right hand doesn't know what the left hand's doing on that front, but they can unite on, like one thing, like the capstone is becoming mayor, to allow him to come to these different ends, Shrek and the Penguin. So yeah, he's definitely got manipulation down for sure.
I think he hits all 5. Sexual deviance, manipulation. He's smug, arrogant too.
Yeah.
But yeah, he like gets there. He's like, it's not really like his thing at first. But yeah, he definitely gets there.
He warms up to it. Yeah. Shrek kind of opens this like door and then he kind of just like seizes on it too. Yeah. Like after he bites that dude in the nose, he says something to the other gal, Jan Hooks, who's from SNL, which I like her a lot too. I thought it was interesting to see her have this like bit cameo. But I can't remember. I think that's where he's like, I'd love to fill her gap or like to fill her void or something like that. But yeah, there's a couple little things as an adult like I picked up on that I didn't when I was a kid, that was kind of interesting. Whereas you saw it older and you have to reflect on it as an older person. And like I'm hanging on to like when I watched it younger for the first time, and then I'm like, oh shit, like they got some stuff for the adults in here. Yeah. Along with your Happy Meal fucking marketing tie-ins. It's like, we got to keep some stuff for the adults too.
Yeah. And they rode that balance pretty solid. Even though this time I was like, God damn, I don't know if I'd be letting a lot of kids be watching this. Like, I don't know, maybe like 12. But yeah, so Penguin, I think he hits. I think Shrek hits enough as well for a cooter light, but definitely together, super cooter. We're locking them up. Lock them up. We got him.
Throw away the key.
Yeah. All right, G baby. Thank you again so much for joining me on episode Deuce of Creature Comforts, Batman Returns 1990 Deuce. One more time, tell everyone where they can find all your stuff.
You can find us. It's me and my co-host, the usual suspect, Steve. We host the Waxing the Porpoise podcast. You can find it anywhere you get your podcast, your favorite podcatcher, Apple, Google, Spotify. We're also on YouTube. And we're on the social, we're on Instagram and Twitter as well. So just look up Waxing the Porpoise and you'll find us. We got a new episode coming out tomorrow on Bone Tomahawk. Pretty psyched about that one. So yeah, check us out.
Love some bone tomahawk. I am super excited to listen to that tomorrow. Awesome. Yeah, you guys are doing a really great job. Appreciate what you're kind of adding to the community and everything like that. Always, of course, hashtag heart with us. Really appreciate you coming on for this. It was a great discussion, and we'll have to do it again sometime.
Totally.
Um, yeah, episode 3. I'm trying to do these once a month. The next one is going to be coming out in December, and it is going to be Christmas themed. I'm not going to keep up with the I'm not going to keep up with the superhero stuff. I'm actually going to be joined by with Nicole. I'm going to be joined. Nicole's coming on. Nicole,
She'll be here.
She'll be here. Nicole from the Light and Shadow podcast is coming on to talk about a Christmas Carol. And we're kind of going to be talking about the book mainly, but we're going to be working in a lot of the different film iterations as well. Nicole is super prominent in the Straight Chilling Book Club, which none of us even have anything to do with. So I thought very appropriate to have her on to actually talk about a kind of like spooky, horror fringe book, ghosts and all that kind of stuff, but very much a prominent Christmas film and book, and just you see it all over the place at Christmas time. So that's what we're going to be talking about next month. That's what you have to look forward to. Thank you for joining us, and until next time, don't forget to keep chilling.